This is Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
Of course, on a Tuesday, we always put in a little overtime. Welcome to Fox 8 Overtime. Garland Gillen, Sean Vazan, I'm Juan Kincaid. We've finally gotten to the most important time of the football season, the postseason. It's the right time of year.
Oh, this has been great, man. The semifinal last week for LSU was a great game if you're an LSU Tiger fan. We got playoff games to think about. We got LSU coming to town in a couple of weeks. It's going to be really exciting.
If you're the Saints, this is what it all boiled down to. This is what you wanted for this stretch right here.
You're right. Let's get you right to the headlines. The big board. Saints playoff path is set. LSU's historic season continues with the national championship game. And the Pelicans back in the playoff chase and conversation. More on those two a bit later on, but week 17 for the NFL season is history. Saints just keep on winning 42-10 over Carolina in a game that was over just after it started. It was the 6th win in 7 games for the Saints. Their 6th time in 7 games they've scored a bunch of points as well, over 30. Let's start right there. This offense is in as good a sync as we've seen all season long. Does it continue?
Yes. I've said it many a times over this stretch here. Compare 2018's offense to 2019's offense. 2018, they were rolling on historic levels through about week 11 or 12. Then they got to December, they got to Dallas, and they just fell apart. They were not the same offense. Limped into the playoffs, needed a combination of an average offense, really good defense, and excellent special teams, but still got within a bad call of getting to the Super Bowl. This year, they had to kind of find their way offensively because of the injuries, and even when Drew got back, there was some question about whether or not they get the big play back. But yet here we are, last month of the season, playing their best football. You'd rather have this version offensively going into the postseason than last year's version. So I think this offense is going. The arrow is pointing clearly up.
And the health is right where they want it to be. Warford came back this past week. Andres Pete's back. Alvin Kamara got his swag back in Week 16 against the Tennessee Titans. Jared Cook's making crazy catches toward the back end of the season. Taysom Hill's making big-time catches. Everything's starting to fall perfectly into place for this offense right now. You got to love it if you're a Saints fan. This is exactly the points are racking up fast now for the black and gold.
They're scoring a lot of points, but what's the one thing you need to see as we go into the playoffs here from this offense specifically?
The one thing?
One thing needs to be better.
I was concerned about Alvin Kamara, but he seems to kind of have waken up a little bit, and I think he's back 100% healthy, got that confidence back. And really, it's funny what springs. I thought it was the Jared Cook block on the Jared Cook touchdown in Tennessee that kind of sprung him forward. So I think you need to see exactly what you've been seeing. I love the emergence of Jared Cook. I love Michael Thomas being Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara being Alvin Kamara, that dual threat capability. I'm curious if the situation dictates a game where Latavius Murray rises to the top, because that could happen, especially if you get to a cold weather city.
I guess if we talked about health, one player that did not play on Sunday, and also every now and then I'll have a crazy big play is Zach Line. He didn't play this past Sunday. So I guess if you got one concern, because Sean Payton loves having Zach Line out there. He can do some crazy things with him since he played quarterback in high school. So if you had one concern on the offense, I would say Zach Line needs to get back to 100%.
A very interesting matchup on Sunday. The 5th time they will have played the Vikings in the last 3 years. Does familiarity help? Does it count in this game?
I mean, yeah, it counts. You know the opponent. They've played them a lot, not just in that 3-year stretch, but historically in the postseason, the Saints have played the Vikings more than any other opponent. And if you look at history, it has not been too kind to the Saints in that one-on-one matchup there. But in regards to this team, yeah, I mean, it matters. You know this team. You know the players. You know what happened the last time you met in the postseason. So, yeah, I think it matters. But I do think the Saints are the better team, and they have the home venue rolling into Sunday.
Yeah, the Saints are 1-3 in the playoffs against the Vikings there. If you go back to, Anthony Carter when I was a kid, I mean, just killed him. I remember in 2000, I think you might have been at that game, Randy Moss and Chris Carter destroyed him.
That was the year before me.
Okay,
yes.
okay. I knew you were right around
but
there.
I understand the history has not been too kind.
It has not. And then you go with Stephon Diggs there. One thing also, if we were to keep talking about health, was that I'm intrigued to see how the secondary is they're gonna come back this week. So that's something that you want to watch there. But the Saints are big time favorites, 8-point favorites going into this game there. You saw how bad the Vikings play when things were on the line against the Green Bay Packers. I think this team should win.
But the Vikings are a different football team this weekend because they're going to have Dalvin Cook back. So I asked the question, Alvin Kamara versus Dalvin Cook. Which guy needs to have the better game, the bigger game, for their team to win?
It's no doubt it's Dalvin Cook. I just went through about 8 of his games this year. That offense is different when he is rolling. They go through him much like the Rams go through Todd Gurley. They use him in the same fashion. They like to run the outside zone. They like to run tosses. They love to run play action off of him. If he is going, then everything else in that offense kind of falls into place. Whereas we've seen with Alvin Kamara, you can work around if he's having a bad game. So I think for this, and for the question you asked, I think it has to be Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on this one because the Saints have so many weapons on offense. They can move around him. Kirk Cousins, if he doesn't have a viable run option, you can tee off on him. He is so up and down, man. You don't know what you're going to get this Sunday when he comes to town there. But right now, he hasn't impressed in these last few weeks.
He's been down the last couple of weeks, losing obviously against Green Bay in a big game. Doesn't do well in the big games. All right, coming up, we'll talk college football as LSU's preparations for the national championship game are fully underway. Stay with us. And Saints fans who want to see their team spirit on television can head to the Final Play app, submit a picture, just click the menu, scroll down to the Submit Your Saints Picks page, and from there, just follow directions. Pretty simple. Tune in throughout the season to see your Who Dat passion on display.
You're watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
All right, welcome back into Overtime. We're going to talk college football now, and it's all come down to one game. The national championship game is where LSU's historic season continues against the Clemson Tigers. The Tigers made short work of Oklahoma, that being LSU, in the semifinal. 49 by halftime. They cruised in that game. Clemson, though, a better opponent. But will that change what we see from the Tigers in the offensive side?
They're unstoppable right now. I don't know who can stop them, Juan. I mean, that game was over with in the first quarter, okay? I mean, when Justin Jefferson drops 4 touchdowns on you, Joe Burrow throws 7 touchdowns, then gets another rushing touchdown later in the contest. I don't know who can stop them. I will say this, though. Clemson is giving up the least amount of points per game in the NCAA with 11 points per game. I will say, though, ACC is probably one of the weakest conferences in America. I don't know. ACC and the American, with Tulane playing, they're pretty close, but I don't think anybody can stop. I think what we saw in Atlanta, we're going to see in New Orleans in a couple of weeks.
I think, honestly, what any defensive coordinator has to do going into a game with LSU is I got to figure out a way to get enough stops to where I can contain LSU to where they only score 40 points. Because that's the only way you're going to have to beat them in
the
shootout.
game, not just in the first half.
Exactly. And you're going up against Brett Venables, Clemson's D coordinator, who is a little bit like Dave Aranda, likes to mix and match personnel, likes to disguise his blitzes. So you're going up against a very creative defensive coordinator, maybe the best defensive coordinator they've seen all season, but they're not slowing down LSU. They're just not. This offensive juggernaut is just too good. You know, I was thinking today, there's going to be, after this year, a bunch of really good offensive seasons from LSU that we're just going to shrug our shoulders at because it's not going to be this year. You got to realize just how special this year is. I mean, this is unbelievable what we're witnessing offensively for LSU.
They could get just as good a quarterback or maybe a notch below Joe Burrow and still may not all come together like it's done this year. One clear goal since day one from Joe Burrow and LSU, the message has been we want to win a national championship. That's what we want to do. They haven't wavered from that. It's almost like from day one, he knew what the potential of this team was.
LSU's Twitter site today posted a video of Ogeron saying we need to get our offensive talent out there and get them more involved this year. And they're getting everybody involved. What, for Chris Curry to have the game he had on Saturday, no one even thought he was going to be the starting running back.
I like him. I like his game.
Dude, he's been, he had under 100 yards rushing this season going into that contest. It's amazing the weapons they have on this offense there. And they got good news today. Damian Lewis might be back for the game against Clemson.
Michael Divinity's going to play.
Yes, yeah. And dude, I'll say this though, they've shown
been great,
Well, they've shown they don't even need him right now. I mean, this defense is red hot, but it's good to have Divinity back in there because he's one of your sack leaders.
Yeah, look, it goes back to what I said about being a special, historic season. Every team has the national championship goal, but not every team has the entire locker room aligned with the leader like Joe Burrow, who's an extension of Ed Ogeron and Joe Brady and Steve Ensminger and Dave Aranda, and the entire locker room buying in. And as the season goes on, that belief just gets bigger and bigger as the games get bigger and bigger, and they answer the bell every single time to where now, here we are, and finish the job. That's got to be the message right now. Finish the job. It's not over yet.
The biggest advantage for LSU in this game, besides their talent, playing inside the Superdome. How much of a disadvantage can that be for them as well? And the pressure is obviously clearly on them.
Well, I will say this. I was in the Georgia Dome, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, old habits here. Georgia, when they were there, they outnumbered them like 3-1, and it didn't faze LSU at all. It was about 50-50 this past game. But you're right. Ogeron got asked in the teleconference today about how many tickets each player is getting. But they got to be fired up. I mean, LSU fans are buying up these tickets like crazy. It's probably going to be, I would say, 4-1. They're going to be maybe 80% LSU fans in the Dome. Because Clemson fans are used to this because they've been here numerous times there. Yeah. So I don't know how many are going to show up in New Orleans. This thing's going to be purple and gold rain come that Monday.
Clemson's won 29 straight games, 25 in a row with Trevor Lawrence playing quarterback for them. They obviously have the championship pedigree, know what it takes to win this game. But it seems like Dabo Swinney, the head coach's message all year long has been, no one's listening, talking about us. And in this game, you know that's going to be the billboard, the bulletin boards that this is LSU's home game. No one expects us to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, look, for a team that's won this many games in a row, I kind of agree with that. We haven't talked about them a whole lot on a national scene. But that's what concerns me the most. Not the venue, not the pressure, not the big game. It's the fact that Clemson does have kind of the heart of the champion here. You saw last week they did not play well, and then all of a sudden those championship pedigree type players came in and made plays and won the game. That's what concerns me the most. Clemson knows how to win on the big stage. They've been here plenty of times before. But if you match up roster for roster, player for player, I believe LSU's got the better team.
Okay. And Clemson's the underdog, so he's going to play that up. They're 6-point dogs right now.
That's crazy. That makes no sense to me, but I understand it, I guess, a little bit. All right, up next on Overtime, break up the band. Your New Orleans Pelicans are on a season-long win streak. We'll talk playoffs when we come back.
You're watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
We're talking Pelicans here on Overtime, and they're winning basketball games again. They're currently on a season-long 4-game win streak. 5 of the last 6 games they've won as well, and that's all happened with the anticipation that the best is yet to come because Zion Williamson is expected to make his long-awaited NBA debut very soon. Maybe Friday against the Lakers, we shall see. But 11-23, it doesn't sound great. But they're only 3.5 games out of the playoff spot, number 8, with San Antonio holding that. This team is playing better basketball as we go through the holidays.
I never lost faith. I had faith all along.
You didn't bow down?
I had faith all along.
You didn't bow down.
I didn't bow down. Look, this team's got talent. There's no denying that. They got talented players on this team, on this roster. I like Derek Favors coming back at 15 boards against the Rockets, so his presence in the middle is obviously making a difference. Yeah, man, this team's got talent, and they won 4 in a row. Got a little bit of a good mojo thing going here, and who knows, man? Maybe you catch a break with Zion coming back soon, and who knows where the season leads.
Well, Nickeil Alexander-Walker laid it out there today. Put a little Easter egg out for you there on Instagram. Said, let's dance, and had a picture of Nickeil Alexander-Walker next to Zion. He's getting closer. You saw the video where he was dunking in pregame there. It's getting perfect time now. Football season's starting to slow down here. We'll have a month left, hopefully, for the Saints. And then the Pelicans' time to shine. And they're only 3.5 out. No one wants the A seed in the West. That's the best thing going for the Pelicans right now. The A seed is like totally up for grabs right now. No one wants it. So the Pelicans can definitely swoop in. But if they want to get the A seed, Zion needs to finally come out and play. And I think he's getting closer and closer. When you see him dunking, you see him doing jump shots every day. I think the end of his injury run is coming.
Well, I will say this.
All right.
I think the NBA knows what they're doing. And I know they're on the phone with David Griffin to look here. You guys are playing in L.A. this weekend against your former player, Anthony Davis. Why not have Zion come back for Friday's game against the Lakers? It'll be Zion versus AD. LeBron James is out for a little bit. He's not going to play. LeBron, sit back and watch. AD, the old Pelican against the new Pelican. Who's going to win that game? I think Zion plays this Friday against the Lakers, and I think Alvin Gentry saved his job for now. All right, coming up, from a pair of erratic NFL free agents to an excellent opportunity for Anthony Davis, everyone gets a final say. Next.
You're watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
We are in the home stretch of overtime, and that means time for everyone's favorite part of the show, our final say. Of course, Sean Vazan, the West Bank's finest, will lead us off.
Bat and Leo. All right. Well, is there a more tone-deaf athlete maybe ever than Antonio Brown? In case you haven't heard, his latest is calling his workout with the Saints a publicity stunt. That's right. The man that showed up to the facility with a camera crew and entourage then put his workout waiver on Instagram along with selfies with he and Zion and FaceTiming with Alvin Kamara said the Saints made the workout a publicity stunt. I can go on and on about Brown, but honestly, it would be wasting everyone's time. But I'll just leave it with a short and sweet message to the Saints. He is not worth it. I'm sure they know this, and sorry fans, I know some of you wanted him here, but this drama has no place in one of the best Saints locker rooms I've ever seen.
Lamar Jackson will win the NFL MVP for delivering a 1 seed for the Ravens and his big runs that heat up the highlight reels. But for my money, the biggest must-watch quarterback of 2019, the Bucs' Jameis Winston. The former Heisman Trophy winner produced records that will possibly never, ever be duplicated, and they're for all the wrong reasons. He joined the exclusive 30-30 club, 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. He also threw 7 pick sixes, 2 feats never accomplished before. You honestly can't turn away from these games. It's the ultimate sink or swim scenario. There's one game he'll throw for 400 yards and win a contest. The next, he'll throw a pick six and a loss to the Falcons. Winston is a free agent, and I say the Bucs re-sign him. Don't rob us the opportunity to see him twice a year if you're a Saints fan.
I like that. It wasn't that long ago that someone close to the Pelicans organization told me that Anthony Davis would never lead New Orleans to a championship, that he wasn't an alpha dog, didn't have that bullish mentality to lead a team to the promised land. Who knows if that would have ever been true about Davis as a Pelican, but now that he's a Los Angeles Laker, the answer to that question could come in short term. LeBron James suffered a groin injury on Christmas Day, and the Lakers are not expected to rush him back. Cue Davis and his chance to show the NBA world that he can lead a contender to a title, if only for a short amount of time. For some, it'll be like Robin trying to step out of Batman's shadow, and that's fair assessment. But Davis should see it for what it is. Yet another chance to prove that he is one of the game's best players and not just one of the game's best sidekicks. To keep the conversation going, check out the Fox8 Overtime podcast. Episodes 126 and 125 focus on the Saints. Episode 124 goes in depth on LSU. You can find our podcast on fox8live.com, the Final Play and Tiger Huddle app, and wherever you listen to your podcast. That's going to do it for us. For the guys beside me and all of us here at Fox 8, thanks for watching. Our next newscast at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
This has been Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.